Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 26 of the Ketodontist podcast. I'm going to keep the introduction real brief today because I got a very special guest and we want to get to that. But as you may or may not know, my name is Dr. Matthew Standridge. I'm a practicing dentist here in the hay capital of the world, Yates Center, Kansas, in the United States. I'm also a certified primal health coach. Since the beginning of 2016, I have lost over 90 pounds by adopting a primal ketogenic lifestyle to help correct my metabolism, heal inflammatory issues, and improve mental clarity and cognition. While this show is not meant to be seen as giving specific medical advice, after seeing the improvements in my and my family's quality of life through diet and lifestyle change, I was inspired to spread the message of healthy, real nutrition to my patients, my community, and now you. This show will also track my journey to even further weight loss and increased health, as well as help guide others along their path to better health and wellness. So before I introduce our guest, just give a little update. This is actually not the recording of this episode isn't all that too many days past my last recording. So as far as weight changes, not a whole lot, down a couple of pounds, but you guys know I kind of like to update every 5-10 pounds or so. So not really much to report there, but macros have been on point. Things have been going good. Been crazy busy at work, but that's because where we have a lighter month with being off, I got to watch Hazel while my wife goes to a conference, and then the very next weekend I'm in San Diego for Low Carb USA. Got to work on my presentation for my orthodontics course down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, coming up in August. So there's just a bunch of irons in the fire right now. So I am only working out 3 days a week, just really trying to focus on hitting my diet, really, is what it comes down to. And so not really much to report there. I am batching it this weekend for an unfortunate reason. My wife's uncle passed away, and not unexpectedly, but suddenly. And so the funeral is this weekend. And so her and Hazel are driving up to Illinois. And so I'm going to be back at the homestead, I guess trying to use the best use of my time. Got some episodes of the podcast I want to outline. Want to create a couple of videos with the new video studio I've set up downstairs, and then hopefully this weekend I'm not spending too much time eating moon cheese in my underwear, drinking Diet Coke, catching up on seasons 2 of Luke Cage and Glow on Netflix. But we'll see. I'm going to try to use the time to my advantage here. But without further ado, I want to introduce my guest for the show, Jeremy McAlister, also known as a social media personality, Fat Adapted Athlete Official. He is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. He is a social media content creator, online fitness and nutrition coach, business owner, father of 2 daughters who are grown, married, and out of the house, and husband to his wife of 26 years, Tony. In addition to being an avid oil painter, Jeremy drinks copious amounts of Diet Pepsi, as we were talking about before we started recording here, and is motivated to be the best version of himself in his 40s. His friends say, as such a young empty nester, he's living his best life now. Jeremy is a YouTuber producing content regarding the ketogenic diet and his personal physique change since December of 2014, where he lost over 85 pounds and put on sizable muscle. Most of his meals and daily life are documented daily on Instagram. As an online certified fitness nutritionist, he maintains a modest roster of coaching clients. He contributes advice freely to tens of thousands of people across the keto Facebook groups. When he's not doing that, he's busy with he and his wife's company, Tortoise and the Hare Racing, where he produces running events from 5Ks to ultra marathons. And then we'll talk about his kind of contact info at the end of the episode. So Jeremy, my brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. You and I started connecting a few months ago via the interwebs, and we just kind of really hit it off. So excited to finally get to speak to you camera to camera here.
Yeah, it's awesome. As I was saying before, it's like when you meet people online, you feel like you know them after you've interacted a while.
Right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit. You're all like, tan and jacked and swole and everything like that right now, but you aren't always like that. So I like to learn a little bit about my guests and their stories. Tell me a little bit about your own journey. You said that you lost over, 85 pounds and stuff. Tell us a little bit about what life was like before your transformation. Give my listeners a little bit of insight of what it is that made you change and how you went about doing so.
Sure. Okay. So I'll try not to make it too long because it's a long story. But, I got married really, really young. I was just an airman in the Air Force, 20 years old. And 6 months into that, my wife got pregnant with our first. 14 months later, the second one came along. So we were just young kids. I was an airman in the Air Force, didn't have a lot of money. So to make money go further, it was fast food. It was, back in the day, her and I could eat at Taco Bell for like $5. So it was pretty much Taco Bell and big gulps every day. And we lived in Vegas, by the way, which is hot as hell.
Yeah.
And so, you got to keep the liquids coming out. Unfortunately, it was in the form of very sugary drinks. And so, pretty quickly I started putting on weight. I have a distinct memory of when one of our friends, this couple we'd hang out with, she's like, "Hey, you're getting little boobies." And I was like, wow, I didn't realize, she was just playing around, but I realized, wow, I'm starting to put on a little bit of weight. Still didn't think anything about it. And, over the years, it was just a progressive, basically it was just a 20-year weight gain until I was like, I want to say I was wearing like a size 44 pant waist. I'd reached, I say around 245, 50. My wife remembers 260, but I go with the conservative number. Just for reference, today I weighed at 168,
gotcha.
Which is just a few pounds from my leanest. But anyhow, coming up through the corporate world, I got to a point where I was in multi-unit management and I had the corporate card. And so my job was, taking people out to eat was part of that, networking and socializing. And so, of course, that just fed into that habit of eating, only now is eating much larger. It was steaks with cream, shrimp on it with the fries and the potatoes and all those things. So just 20 years of really bad habits, being your typical family man, who was working and everything. So fast forward, my daughter is in high school and she starts running track. And we had all started to get heavy. My wife and I, considerably heavy. She's lost a lot too. I think 150 pounds between the two of us. But anyhow, my daughter started running cross country. She got in the best shape of her life. And while she was out there running, my wife would take her to practice. So my wife started to walk a couple loops. Next thing you know, my wife's running her first 5K, then a 10K. Then she's training for a half marathon. And kind of like she was inadvertently putting in activity following my daughter.
Right.
Of course, I had nothing to do. So I go out to the local park here with him, and I'd start doing a couple loops, and next thing you know, I'm running a 5K, and then I'm running a 10K, and then we're both training for the Rock and Roll Half Marathon.
Nice.
Down in Savannah, Georgia. So, so with that, I started to see some weight loss, and I think I lost about 30, 40 pounds, but then I hit a roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck. I stayed the same weight for over a year while I was training for an ultra marathon, running 30 to 40 miles a week.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, I still hadn't dropped weight.
Right.
And I remember seeing a business associate who had lost weight. She'd lost a lot of weight. And I said, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" She said, "Well, I just changed my diet." And she had a heart issue where she couldn't even exercise. And I just had an epiphany, here I am killing myself and I can't make any progress. And this person, all they did was change what they ate. And it just snapped with me. So I started doing some research, and I came across a YouTube video of a guy who was talking about running fat adapted, and this concept that you could actually access this other fuel tank to do these long endurance events. Instead of storing 2,000 to 3,000 calories through carbohydrates, you could have access. You could have access to tens of thousands of calories available. And I started thinking, well, if I could use fat for fuel, I sure do have a hell of a lot of it. Maybe I could burn through some of that supply. So immediately I started keto. And of course I started with the uber high fat version. I still have copies of books of them. Yeah, the butter chugger. I still have a copy of my book from Jimmy Moore, Keto Unclarity. And, my very first keto meal, I asked my wife to fix me a package of bacon. Like literally that was my first meal, a package of bacon. And I couldn't even make it through it all. It was so satiating. So anyways, within a couple months, I dropped 20 pounds immediately. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? This is crazy." Well, along the way, I found some groups like Keto Gains, Keto Intermittent Fasting, came across some more evidence-based approach to ketogenic diet, and realized that I needed to modify what I was doing. So I did that, and I started to see crazy, crazy results. But ultimately was just becoming a skinnier version of myself. So then I started kind of drifting away from the endurance training. My knees were just really taking a beating, and started lifting and started training. And so over the last couple of years, there's been a real metamorphosis of body composition. And so that kind of brings me to today. Today I'm lighter, I'm leaner. Instead of people saying, "Hey, big guy," meaning round,
fat ass, yeah.
It means something different.
Yeah.
It's funny because my family, they're kind of over it, but we were just in Myrtle Beach, and we were walking out, and these two older gentlemen were sitting there smoking, and they kept yelling like, "Hey, where'd you get your," and I thought they were saying shirt, and they're like, "No, you're," and I couldn't understand what they were saying. We went back and forth like 3 minutes. My wife's like, we could not understand what they're saying. He goes, "No, where did you get the body? I need to go pick one up." And then we all laughed, but it's just the way people approach it now is different than what it was, 5-10 years ago. I feel healthier. I feel younger, and I just feel great.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's a long story, but that's how I came here.
No, I get it, and I love that. Definitely that the fact that you were training for an ultra marathon, not a half marathon, not a regular marathon like the Chicago or the New York or the Boston, but an ultra marathon, and you're not losing weight.
Yes.
That's where, I mean, I don't necessarily mind the whole mantra, eat less, move more, because there's a little bit of truth to it. But at the same time, because there is an element of calories in, calories out. However, when it also goes back to that other mantra, you can't outrun a bad diet. And I think, the truth is somewhere there in the middle. And you're great evidence of that, the fact that you're training for an ultra marathon, which for folks who don't know what that is, that's basically anything over a regular, was it 26.2 miles is what the regular marathon is? So it's anything over that, and that can be 50 miles, that can be 100 miles. And the fact that running that much and putting that much time on the road, doing that much road work and not losing weight, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I figured, exactly what you said. The amount of time that goes into training, for anybody who's a triathlete knows, or does endurance events, just the time in training. And I thought, growing up, I was really into bodybuilding. I loved following bodybuilders. I was a ripped guy who couldn't put on muscle, but wanted to be that muscle beach guy. And I thought, why don't I go back to that? I can spend an hour, hour and a half in the gym every day and not kill myself and actually work towards the body that I want to have. So fast forward, and that's where I am today.
So, so are you still doing, because you and your wife, you guys host races, or you produce races and stuff like that. So are you still doing any running yourself? Is it more seasonal, or are you just basically sticking to resistance training as your main focus?
Yeah, it's funny. We run this running company, but neither one of us run. We lift weights. My knees just really took a beating with that. I had some cartilage pulled out of my knee, and when I walk upstairs, it's not the stairs creaking, it's my knees. But we had opportunity while we were losing weight and running. There's a trail nearby that only has one race a year, and we thought this is one of the most underutilized trails. We should put on a race here. And hey, we might as well make it a business too.
Right.
And since we're doing that race, we might as well do another one and another one. And it just snowballed to now we have 12 events. One of them is actually a keto race. It's the bacon run. So you do a 5K and you get unlimited amounts of bacon. And we have anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people at that event.
Nice.
And then we also, we also do sports timing, and we'll do race directing for other events in the city. But no, we don't run per se, but we do put them on. Matter of fact, we just hosted an ultra marathon last month. It's a lap race where people can run for 3, 6, 12, or 24 hours. And we just support them with an aid station and the timing. And we had a guy do, I think it was 114 miles within the 24 hours. Pretty incredible. So we still hang around a lot of those people, but it's just not something that we personally do.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. So with your resistance training, then, about how often? I see you in the gym all the time, and so how often are you hitting the gym, lifting weights and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I actually do 5 to 6 days a week. I've focused this last year on high frequency training, just trying to, I got little legs. I got to grow them just because I put it off so many years because my knees, I was like using it as an excuse. So doing 2 leg days a week, and the other days is upper body, trying to hit each muscle group 2 times a week, at least at a minimum. And then any lagging body parts, I'm hitting a 3rd time. So like my rear delts, I need to bring up, my calves, things like that. I'm hitting a little bit extra. So yeah, 5 to 6 days a week, but I'm not too religious about it. If I miss a day there, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, as lean as you are, and as well developed muscularly as you are, it's not like you're it's not like you're a sponsored pro bodybuilder that is having to lean down for a show. You still want it to work within your life, right?
Yeah, basically, exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of that, because I follow you on Instagram, we're buddies on Facebook and stuff like that. You have some of the dankest tank tops that I've seen. It's like they just rock. Where do you get those? Because those are amazing.
Amazon, baby, Amazon Prime.
Dang, man.
Don't spend more than $17 on a tank top, and that way you can get as many. You think I have a collection? My buddy Mike Trentella, he's got 20 years of tank tops, so he's got a leg up on me. But but yeah, Amazon, man.
I friggin' love those things.
And I'm a superhero fan like you are, so I had to. I know you're a superhero fan, so I had to rock the Superman for the interview.
Oh, good work! I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet on the camera. Good work on that. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so funny, just that one that you have now, that kind of almost like Starry Night looking thing, like whatever that Jackson Pollock painting tank that you have is that's rad. I love it. Yeah. So and
I wanted to go full bodybuilder douche in Planet Fitness, so it's like paint splatters. My wife and some of my friends have said I'm forbidden to ever wear it again, but I had fun wearing it. So
that is hysterical. I love that thing. So, you know, in addition to your day job, you're very active online as the fat adapted athlete. So tell me a little bit about, and you also have your own group and you have your own coaching and all that stuff. But first, before we get to the academy, tell me a little bit about what made you develop this fat adapted athlete persona and social media presence, and tell us about the journey of how you started that and what made you start that project.
Sure. So I had to go back and check before we got on this. I did my first video in December of 2014. I'd been on keto for, I want to say I started in November of 2014. Okay. Been on it for probably a month with some success. And I thought, you know, number one, I thought keto would be something that's up and coming. And, but number two, I was like, I've tried for 20 years to find a way as an obese person to find a way to overcome myself and to become the master of my food instead of being its slave. And ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting did that for me. And I wanted to get that information out to other people. And I'm a very outgoing personality. I mentioned in the bio that I love art, oil painting. So, you know, I needed a creative outlet, and I thought, hey, why don't I document this journey? I don't know where it's going to go, so I might as well just record it, and maybe somebody else will learn. Here's the other reason why when I started keto, I was like, what do you eat? How much do you eat? When do you eat? What do you put on the food? I didn't know. So I thought, why don't I do some videos now that I've found out, and people can watch and just say, oh, well, I'll just eat that. Since he ate that, I'll just eat that, and try to make it easy for people.
Right.
And along the way, educate them. And of course, I evolved from that butter chugger to here. And then I had people reaching out for coaching and so forth. So I went and got my ISSA fitness nutrition certification. I took Menno Henselman's Beijing bodybuilding course. I saw you on the alumni there.
Yep.
A very science and evidence-based approach. And, you know, just been coaching for the last 3 years. I have my company, so I try to keep a modest roster, no more than 12 to 15 people at a time.
Nice.
And so, yeah, that's it. I just want to educate people and help people.
So speaking of, just a side tangent, that Beijing bodybuilding course, what were your thoughts on that? I thought it was pretty legit. I need to go back, and the certification test didn't work for my schedule, so I'm waiting to take it this next time. But that was, as far as evidence-based goes, I friggin' love that thing.
Yeah, I've got to go back and same thing, certification, because we had a family emergency around that time, and I just could not commit the time to getting into that. Thing is so in depth and such good resource. Like you said, you can go back and read some of those things a couple times, and they link out to so many different studies. I mean, you can go bonkers, you know, looking at all that stuff. But yeah, Menno Henselman, his Beijing bodybuilding course, I highly recommend it to anybody. It's a purely unbiased approach of just what does the research show us?
Yeah.
And what can we surmise from the data? So this is the best way to do it. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved it. It's amazing. So you're very, you help run a very popular keto group on Facebook, with, Michael, Trenchilla, is that right?
Yeah. Trenchilla.
Trenchilla. I want to make sure I was actually pronouncing that right. Anyway, so with Michael Trenchilla, called Ketogenic Intermittent Fasting. And any of you guys who are into these keto Facebook groups, if you want a good group to join, Ketogenic Intermittent Fasting is the one. If you're a regular listener of this show, who's more of the science-based, not the pseudoscience, not the woo factor, but really want to know what works. Ketogenic intermittent fasting is a wonderful group to belong to. So tell us a little bit about how you met Michael, what made you to click, how you got in, or how you got involved with that group. Tell us a little bit of that backstory.
Sure. So I came up kind of through Keto Gains, moderating the site. And through that, Mike had come over as an admin. Of course, he had his group, I have my group, and so forth. And we just kind of clicked. He's a carb cycling guy. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean cyclist, like cyclical ketogenic diet. And he's just got a very gregarious personality. By the way, he's known as Keto Diesel on most social media stuff. But anyhow, we just hit it off, and I kind of got involved in his group. And since then, I've spent more time there just because Keto Gains and some of the other groups have a large body of moderators to handle that, where it was just him and like one or two other people. So right now it's him, Jen, Michael Leonard, and I, pretty much four of us.
Wow.
Sorry, somebody just came in.
Right.
Dog's going crazy.
So for a group of 50,000 plus people, only having 4 moderators is pretty...
Yeah, it is. Can you hang on 1 second?
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, they're going. One of my speaking of kids, one of my kids just showed up.
Oh, cool.
So anyways, yeah, the group has kind of exploded recently, where I think when I got in there, it was like less than 25,000 people, and now it's almost at 70,000. So
right.
He needed a lot more help there, so I've spent a lot of time there, and we're pretty loose there. You know, I guess just our personality types. We're serious about the science, but we're not so rigid that you can't post something and we're going to delete it. Right. You know, we like to have fun. It's just a little more laid back, I guess.
Yeah.
Been involved in that, and yeah.
No, very cool.
So yeah, along the way, we just kind of hit it off. I adopted some of his protocols for carb cycling, saw some pretty decent gains, and so we just kind of connected. So yeah, I'm actually flying there tomorrow morning for a diet break. We've been dieting for 12 weeks. You mentioned his name is Trenchitella, so I started calling it Trench or Treat, although we know that you know, food isn't a reward per se, but you know, everybody who does like a bodybuilding show or something, they diet for 12 weeks and then they go to IHOP or something, right, and, you know, have a meal. So we're just doing a little, yeah. Exactly. Matter of fact, the other thing I did is I did an interview with him about a year ago on the cyclical ketogenic diet on my YouTube channel. And I said, hey, we should do a follow-up to that video where we diet down and then just do a crazy carb up weekend in New York, which is where he's at. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's where I'm heading tomorrow. We've been dieting for 12 weeks, and we're going to have the most epic gym training session and, an epic carb up.
Yeah, it's been so funny watching you guys prepare for this. So speaking of, do you guys have your emergency contact info, your ICE contacts put into your phones and everything in case if one of you just like somehow goes into a diabetic coma after a carb up this weekend or something, because it looks like it's going to be a rager.
Yep. Yeah. We're going to have special bracelets with emergency information on it.
Right.
Carb comas are inevitable. Definitely.
Well, okay. So you were talking about the 12 weeks leading up to this. You've really been embracing the PSMF. For those of you listeners who haven't, maybe this is your first time listening to the show, the PSMF stands for Protein Sparing Modified Fast. We've talked about it in previous episodes with Marty Kindle, Ted Naiman. I journeyed a little bit with my experience with it. But for those for Jeremy, for those of my listeners who don't really know what PSMF, can you explain a little bit what it is and how you've been utilizing it the last 12 weeks to really lean out for this?
Yeah, so Lyle McDonald popularized it with his rapid fat loss handbook.
Yeah.
And basically, a protein sparing modified fast, it mimics the effects of a fast without sacrificing lean body tissue. So you usually keep protein the same or maybe a little bit elevated, but you drop carbs to 20, and then 5 pre-workout, and then your fat is around 20 as well. So it's uber low. Which is tough to adhere to. Calories are low. For me, it's been around 1,000 calories. And right now I've done 9 days straight. I had 1 or 2 free meals in there, and there was about 5 days before that. It's not necessarily recommended as a long-term protocol.
Right.
It's more of kind of like when you're getting ready for a vacation or you got a wedding coming up. It's a very aggressive approach. You have to make sure you supplement with some fish oil and some basic things like that. So anyway, so I've been using that to just get a little more aggressive. And I think since I've started it, I want to say I've dropped about 10 or 12 pounds since doing it over the course of a few weeks, which is significant for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's, a lot of times I'll do, because calories are so low, I'll do OMAD. I'll do 1 meal a day. So I can kind of suffer through the day and postpone my calories. I'm a procrastinator by nature. So anybody who's having trouble managing calories, 1 meal a day, throughout this 12 weeks, I would do that at least 2 days a week, just to ensure calorie deficit and just to give me a little wiggle room, because I had a day where I had a heavy training day and I was just, uber hungry. So anyways, yeah, I've done that. I'm pretty tired of chicken breasts. I think I had 2 or 3 chicken breasts for lunch every day, just about. So I'm ready for some, honestly, I'm ready for the carb up, but I'm ready for some fatty foods again. Yeah.
Well, I've seen you lately towing that line, sprinkling a little bit of pepperoni on your food.
Turkey pepperoni.
Oh, it was turkey pepperoni. Okay.
Yep. Turkey pepperoni. Yeah. You got to learn all the tricks when you do that. Meaty Mountain, which is basically turkey, a little bit of marinara, which just has a few carbs, fat-free cheese, which is plastic cheese, but it gives you the cheesy consistency.
Yeah, it gives you Yeah.
So you learn on PSMF, you don't really make meals. You make concoctions.
Right.
It's the only way you can do it.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I did, I would say it was 2 months ago. I did 3 weeks of, not quite 3 weeks. It was more like almost 2 full weeks of PSMF. And I made it 12 days. And granted, I dropped like 16 pounds.
Wow.
In those 12 days, which was great. But those last few days, I'm basically just eating like chicken breast and broccoli and dipping them in like that. What's that? Is it like G. Hughes sugar-free barbecue sauce or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually never remember the name of it because I nicknamed it DL Hughley's barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't ever remember the actual name. But, yeah, I basically dip it in, like, that sugar-free barbecue sauce and eating it like a sad sack, just, like, sprinkling salt on it. And, yeah, by the end of it, it was working, don't get me wrong, but I was just psychologically, probably more so psychologically just cooked. And so.
Yeah, I think yesterday I had for lunch, I had a cottage cheese tub with PB2 powder mixed in there.
Oh, fantastic.
A little bit of sweetener. And like that was it. And I was choking that stuff down. But today I was feeling so depleted. I was out shopping with my wife. And I normally fast till 1, no problem. But by 1 o'clock, I felt I was just dying. I'm like, I've got to eat. And we realized that when you do PSMF and you lower calories, you're lowering your food intake where some of your sodium comes from. So we got to keep those electrolytes.
Yeah.
So I immediately stopped, got some chicken bouillon, and I just chewed the cube right away.
Nice.
And felt better very, very quickly. So just had to remind myself, like, hey, dude, come on, you got to you should know this. Keep your electrolytes up.
Right.
You got to get them from various sources when your food drops. So.
Right. Yeah, and we talk about that on the show quite a bit, that most of people starting keto at the first time, that whole Keto Flu BS is basically just low electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium. And so focus on that. Yeah, like you said, bouillon and all that stuff. For potassium, I like adding no salt or light salt to food. Magnesium, I usually just take a magnesium supplement, magnesium glycate, so I usually use. But anyway, but if you think you need to supplement with electrolytes on keto, PSMF, you just ratchet that up to 11. Like, because you're consuming so little food and so little calories that you got to ratchet that up even more so.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, we're doing this diet break, and we're not trying to be bad examples. But with this diet break, it's like you have to understand the suffering that we allowed ourselves to do here and there to do this. So it's not like, number one, that we're going to go do this kind of carb up every day or every week. This is the end of a 12-week, pretty hardcore dieting session. So my friend Luis says you got to earn your carbs, and he may mean it a little different way, but this way, I mean, you really got to earn your trench or treat.
Right. And Trench and I were talking because he actually just started following the show because I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago, I was talking about PSMF and CKD, cyclical ketogenic diet. And so that like triggered him. He's like, oh man, I got to listen to this because like those 2 things were right up his alley.
He's got 4 groups actually. There's keto intermittent fasting, which is, you search Facebook for keto carnivore intermittent fasting.
I haven't joined that one yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's another one. Just search keto carnivore IF.
All right.
And then we have the PSMF group, and we have the CKD group. So we got like so many groups.
Nice. Yeah. So he messaged me after the that episode where I had talked about PSMF and CKD. Because, like I said, that was right up his alley. And I caveated the whole CKD thing, and what you guys are doing with your diet break is it's a lot different than the people who don't really put in the time in the time in the gym, and they have like a 60 to 80% adherence to their macros throughout the week, and then they just want to cheat on the weekends. Yeah. Rick Passmore, I saw him label it the Ketogenic diet, and I love that. Yeah. And so the CKD has its place, and these diet breaks and all that stuff, they have their place, but unfortunately, it's only for like 2 to 5% of the population doing this stuff. And like what you guys are doing, you said you're not trying to set a bad example, and I don't think you guys are. When you take in and you actually look at what you guys have been doing for the last 3 months prior to this, the net effect of those 90 days compared to your 2 or 3 days together, it's completely apples and oranges.
Well, it's like Mike likes to say when we talk about a ketogenic diet, even when he's doing, which he's really moved, both of us have moved a lot more towards a carnivore lifestyle recently. But when we are doing the cyclical ketogenic diet, which is more towards the winter, and maybe you have a carb up once a week or once every 10 days, you're doing it in like a 6-hour window. So it's really like you're keto like 92% of the week. 6% of the week, you're not, you know, and you're really falling out of ketosis for a very short time.
Right.
But yeah, it's not for everybody. It's actually a very strict protocol.
Yes.
And you really have to be strong-willed to do it. So people that look at it think, oh, well, you're just cheating. You're just doing that. It's like, no, actually it's kind of like when you do PSMF, right? And it's hard to find the right foods.
Right.
Well, with his version of the carb up, it's very, very, very low fat. So you can't just go have like donuts because
it's not pancakes and donuts, folks. It's not pancakes slathered in butter and maple syrup or peanut butter, and it's not donuts where you just have high fat and high carb.
Yeah,
it's like friggin' rice and like
Well, we still get our desserts in, but it's like cereal, angel food cake,
right?
But it's not really it's not really like a full meal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's just a 6-hour window, 1 or 2 meals. So
exactly. And then I also tell folks, don't be surprised if you start having if you have issues with cravings and everything, don't be surprised that some of those cravings come back, and you need to be able to withstand those in order for this to work. Because if you just, and that's where I kind of differ, like, because I try to deal with folks on more of an intuitive, emotional level, and more of a behavioral modification level. And so if folks can't inherently stick to that, then they just shouldn't play with it. Like, they shouldn't play with fire. There are some folks that can benefit from that, like you guys have shown, and because there is some physiological benefit. Don't get me wrong. There is some physiological benefit, but some of these folks that have these kind of, I don't necessarily want to label it eating disorders because of the stigma that follows that, but speaking from someone who can down a whole box of those little Debbie cake, it's like the little coffee sticks, the glazed donut sticks. I go to town on those, and I downed a full box of those in one sitting. Wow. And so for someone who's had those triggers and who had to battle those triggers, I know that something like that probably isn't the best for me. And so it's also about knowing yourself and being realistic about what you're able to handle and what you can't. And if you can't handle those type of triggers after a carb up and all that stuff, and also you're not already lean to begin with, you probably shouldn't be focusing on that.
And part of that is when we've had those food addictions, I mean, honestly, just being addicted to food, one way that we're becoming stronger and stronger is by being able to take this approach and then turn it off. Some people, they go to a carb up and they just don't come back, at least for a week. So you have to be able to stick to the protocol. So for us, it's kind of like flexing your muscle, flexing that willpower. It's just makes us stronger. And I have this saying that I like to say is that when I'll post a transformation or something, that food was my master. I made it my servant. So now I tell my body what it's going to eat, when it's going to eat, how much it's going to eat, according to whatever protocol I'm following. I'm not perfect, neither is Mike, but we're pretty much 95% there. So we joke about being triggered a lot, but half of it is just jokes. Like we have self-control, we have will. But hashtag triggered is like the most popular hashtag with us.
So speaking of that, because I would love to talk about that a little bit with you. You said earlier, talking about overcoming self and overcoming food. And the very last episode that I had before this one was labeled "Change Your Habits, Change Your Life." And so I would love for you to talk about a little bit about that mindset shift that you've had between, being a slave to food. I not only do I want this or I need this, versus I'm in control. This is what's going to happen, and I'm going to use this to my benefit and to serve towards my goals. So tell me a little bit about that overcoming self and overcoming food that you talked about earlier.
Sure. Yeah, I actually we had a Keto Gains conference here, I want to say 2 years ago. And my talk was about diet adherence. It's actually on my YouTube channel. If anybody wants to see that, or maybe share that with somebody that might benefit from it. But we talk so much about the science of keto and weight loss and everything, but people don't talk about the mental preparedness to go into approaching a diet.
Yes.
And I love that you linked in that one, like The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Mm-hmm. Amazing book. Just get the audio book if you have to, and listen to it on the way, into the city or something. But a lot of it is just creating habits. I'm a creature of habit.
Right.
So one thing that I found in being successful was I have to hit these macros. Now, for me, it was different because I wanted to run an ultra marathon fat adapted. If I screwed up, I wasn't going to be fat adapted. So I was so very worried about that. So that kind of helped me, stay on track. But a couple things I tell people is to, number one, make a goal and make it public. So, for example, Trench and I, we were, carb cycling after the winter. We just weren't kicking it in gear like we knew we needed to.
Right.
So that's why we set this thing. We put a date on the calendar. We said, let's train and let's diet down for this specific date, this time. We made it very public. As you've seen, I've posted all my stuff online that I eat. It makes it harder to cheat. It makes it harder to fail when you publicize, hey, I'm doing weight loss, because people are going to check on you on that. So setting a goal and making it very public, and then focusing on your mindset, getting your mind right, like, food is going to be dead to me. Well, it doesn't have to be, but you know what I'm saying. Food is energy, and for the next whatever period of time, I'm going to change my habits. So I get people who are like, I can't do keto because I eat out all the time. I eat out 80% of the time the first 2 years of keto. Literally. It's not hard, but you have to change your choices. When I go to like a Zaxby's drive-thru, it's this grilled Caesar salad. It's maybe some chicken wings, maybe not the optimal macros, but they work, and or maybe some grilled chicken. Having the fried chicken isn't one of the options in the rotation, if that makes sense. I have a few restaurants that
what you can and cannot have, and anything that you cannot have, it's not an option, period.
Exactly. So you take those things out of the rotation as far as what is an option, what's in your area. I travel a lot for business. So I got a Planet Fitness membership, first of all, because they're everywhere. And when you work out, you feel like eating right. And when you eat right, you feel like working out. And it's like this cycle.
Right.
Cycle's broken. You need one thing to keep going so you can get back on the wheel. So I got a Planet Fitness membership. Nice. And the other thing I do, I'll actually Google what's in that area by the hotel. I'll be like, okay, Texas Roadhouse, boom, cool. Steak and broccoli, I got it. I'll figure out what I'm going to eat so I don't stress about that. And I already have it planned out for the day. It takes 5 minutes. So again, it's just some of those things that you mentioned that is in the book, Charles Duhigg. There's another book by Chip and Dan Heath. Switch, yes.
Yes, love that book. Yeah,
Switch is another great one. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that is, so the bottom line of what I'm saying is, don't just look up the dietary advice, but look up and get some resources in your life that will motivate you to change your mentality. Because that's what I think people go, diet is so much, kind of like we talk about a diet, your results are like 85% the food you eat, maybe 15% the exercise and so forth. Well, dieting is also, I think a lot of it is just your mentality, not just the science behind it. So you got to get your mind right is the bottom line. So there's a lot more information on that diet adherence video. I go into a lot more detail.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. To kind of go off of a tangent, I got this weird email. And it was actually not through the Ketodontist page or email. It was through my dental practice page. And it was from this retired, I think it was neurologist in Jersey. And he was basically just ranting and raving about the show. because I don't talk about the quote unquote science enough. And he says, I do some, and it's good, but I don't do it enough, and I don't hold my when I hold interviews, I don't hold their feet to the fire. He feels like this should be like crossfire or something. And I'm like, no, these people are guests on my show, and I'm going to talk with them in an informal manner, and I'm going to build bridges versus burning them. But it got me thinking. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into his email, but it got me thinking, because he posted, it's a little bit of science, it's a little bit of rah-rah, it's a little bit of Tony Robbins. And I was thinking about that afterwards. I'm like, I'm okay with that. Because like the last episode that I have, the Change Your Habits episode, if we don't incorporate that, if we don't incorporate the actual behavioral change, all this doesn't mean anything. We're not going to get any results. And yes, I am a doctor and I am a clinician and I'm a surgeon, but I deal with people, and I want to focus in results. And also with what I do, if there isn't behavior change on their end, then it's all for naught. And so, yes, I mean, I want the science, don't get me wrong. I want things to be evidence-based, but I don't necessarily need to know every electron transfer and every transport chain in the metabolic pathway. I want to know how people are going to get results. Mm-hmm. And like you said, if the mindset isn't there, the shift in mentality isn't there, and behavior change isn't there, it's all for naught.
Yeah, and that's why, like, when I coach people, I'll do 12-week period minimum, because we're not going to change much in a month.
Right.
And really, we need to, my goal is to develop those habits over those 3 months. Mm-hmm. And once it's a habit, you're set. You're on your journey, and now you can maintain that. So, yeah, I love it. Have the motivation in there too. And that's why, like with my YouTube, I mean, after a while, I'm sure it's boring watching some of the same meals, but that's one of those things that makes people successful, is eating some of the same things over and over that are trusted meals,
Right. Well, and, so take my wife, Sarah, for example, and she wouldn't mind talking about this because she's been public with it before, but now she's all on keto and the whole foods approach and all that. Mm-hmm. She's lifting and she's looking phenomenal, and she's rocking it. But a lot of the stuff, like when I prep my meals for the week and she preps her meals for the week, we're eating basically the same stuff every day for the week. Yeah. Whatever we cooked up for that week, that's what we eat. And people are like, oh my God, that's so restrictive. And I'm just like, okay, what during your day, what do you have? You usually have the same damn bowl of Raisin Bran, or you have the same damn toaster strudels for breakfast. You have the same damn microwavable lunch or whatever. Yeah. Most people are eating the same thing every day.
It's true. It's true. They just don't realize it.
Exactly, because they haven't made the conscious choice of doing so, because it's a habit, and what we talked about, because it's a neurological habit. They're already doing the same thing every day. It's just now they're having to make the conscious choice of doing something different, and that's why it seems weird.
Yeah, that's spot on, 100%.
Oh, man. So anyway, dude, we've been rapping for almost an hour now. I've been loving this. You got to fly out 4:30 in the morning or something like that?
I got to get up at 4:30 to head to the airport, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 10 o'clock p.m. your time now. So not to wrap this up short by any means, if there's anything else you want to talk about, let's wrap. But at the same time, I want to be respectful of your time. So it's been great having you on. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or anything else that you feel like we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I know we had a list of a few things we might rap about, and I don't have that in front of me. No, pretty good. You know, if people want to follow somebody doing a ketogenic diet, you know, lifting weights, occasional carb, very, very far apart right now. They can follow me on YouTube. Try to put out some decent content and just show somebody living a life. It's nothing amazing. Put about every meal I eat on Instagram. So they're welcome to follow me there. You know, join one of the Facebook groups. I'm sure you can link that info.
Yeah, I'll post all your info. Guys, just to let you know, you don't have to jot this down because it'll be in the show notes, but the website, which is going under revision, much like mine, but fatadaptedacademy.com, that'll be up soon. IG is Fat Adapted Athlete Official. YouTube, Fat Adapted Athlete. Snapchat's Fat Adapted. He's got the Facebook pages. The Fat Adapted Academy is more of his inner circle. Is that a fair way to say it? Yeah, so he's got Fat Adapted Academy. He's got Ketogenic Intermittent Fasting group that he helps run. He's got Keto, Carnivore, Intermittent Fasting. So if any of those spark your interest, you know, request to join, read the pinned posts. I frequent my two biggest keto groups are the Keto Gains group and the Ketogenic Intermittent Fasting group, and both of those pinned posts on both of those pages are just amazing. But if you join and you don't read those, you're in a world of hurt. So I fully recommend that you, if you join those groups, which I really recommend that you do because they're the top two keto groups in my opinion, other than, you know, my own, but
Ketodontist,
not biased or anything. But yeah, check those groups out. Wealth of information. I love it. So you guys take a little bit of insulin with you.
Yeah, we'll have
some Humalog IR injectable would be good. So
yeah, I think he's already got some. I don't know what he's got, glucagon tablets, or I don't know what he's got. He's got some. You know, Mike's been doing this for 20 years, so he's got all kinds of tricks up his sleeve. But we'll have videos up probably within a week. Some dude's gonna follow us around with a camera. A couple bodybuilding guys, you know,
fantastic,
eating around New York. So it'll be fun.
That's going to be great. Final last words. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it, man. Just, you know, keep rocking it. Love the show. Keep putting out good content. You're pointing people in the right direction. You're connected with the right people. Keto Gains, Keto Intermittent Fasting, where we have a hell of a good time. So, you know, yeah, I appreciate that you're doing the same thing, man. You're taking time out of your dental practice to put out this content for other people, while at the same time you're training, you're dieting, and family. I mean, you know, I know what it takes to do all that. So I just want to say that I appreciate that you're doing that and putting out solid evidence-based information.
I appreciate that, brother. I really do. So, all right, gang. If you like the show, like I said, make sure to check Jeremy out on all of those things listed. And for those unfortunate listeners who can't view the video, is just, you know, he was just giving the gun show there. And is it do you patent the size medium tank top? Do you have the patent on that yet, or?
I don't yet, but I'm sure my wife and some business associates are like, why don't you wear a shirt that's appropriately sized? I'm like, this is appropriately sized, in my opinion.
I mean, you know, I got it at Kids Gap, but it, you know, it fits it tapers the waist perfectly, so it's fine.
Exactly.
But anyways, listen.
I'm going to order you one of my tank tops.
There you go. So, but like I said, listeners, check him out on IG, YouTube, Snapchat. Join one of the Facebook groups, if not all of them. He's a great guy to learn from. He's results-based. He's a blend of evidence-based and results-based, which is the absolute apex as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, check him out. And shoot him a message if you want to learn some more. And guys, if you enjoyed this show, again, I encourage you to share with friends, to leave us a written review. That's how we grow. It's through this grassroots efforts that we continue to go out there and that we kind of get the right information in the right hands versus a lot of the misinformation from the quote-unquote gurus that are currently in place. It's through your guys' efforts that we grow and make change. And so I fully welcome you to do so. So until then, until next time, take care, keto on, and have a great day.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.